This is James Luxon for Slothbox, sponsored by the Excelsior Sporting Club. And I'm joined today with Stitch Duran. Stitch, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on again, bro.
No worries. Thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. I want to talk about the influence of boxing. I know you've been involved with KSI previously, and he's got a fight coming up against Joe Fournier, who is the first boxer that KSI will face. Just how big a step is this for KSI as an influencer?
Oh, I think it's mega big, and you're right. I spent 6 weeks with KSI when he trained here in Las Vegas before he fought Logan Paul, and just like I did an interview the other day. I said just like Michael B. Jordan in the Creed movie, I spent those whole 6-8 weeks with him every day. But every day that I wrapped their hands, KSI and Michael B. Jordan, I talked to them as if they were fighting and they were actually getting ready to go into an actual fight. So KSI, I a lot of respect. He turned out to be a fighter, just like Jake Paul. People question these guys, but these guys could fight. And the guy that he's fighting, I don't know the caliber of fighter that he is, but I think for social media, for fan base, KSI is the one that they're going to be looking at anyway.
You mentioned Jake Paul there. Obviously, in his last fight, he fought his first legitimate boxer opponent in Tommy Fury. Probably a little bit more established than Joe Fournier is, who's fighting KSI. But we saw Jake Paul come up short against Tommy. Is there a danger of this happening to KSI?
Well, there's always, yeah, of course, there's always that danger, especially when you have some, you're built into the game, and instead of coming in and watching what people do and becoming a boxer late in your career. But there's always that possibility, and that's why I don't like to make predictions because none of us really know. But as you look at it, KSI is the A fighter, and this other guy's the B fighter. But I've seen a lot of fights where the B fighter comes out victorious. So we'll see. It's a good test. Then you really question the social media guys. They're good for this certain level, but are they good for this certain level? You see what I'm saying? And Jake Paul losing to Fury, and then if KSI was to lose, then where does that put the social media fighters at? Should they stay within their grounds or go into the boxing world and see if they could challenge fighters?
Absolutely. And you mentioned Jake Paul. He's scheduled to fight Nate Diaz. Obviously, there's a bit of hoo-ha going on Nate Diaz at the moment and the police. So we don't know if he will potentially be able to fight or not. But as it stands, the fight will go ahead. With that fight, is it a good comeback fight for Jake Paul to fight, another fighter, but in a different combat sport?
It's a good question also. And Nate Diaz, don't underestimate him. Number one, he's so unorthodox that you can't really practice for his style of fighting. It's like Tyson Fury. You can't train to fight Tyson Fury because there's only one Tyson Fury. Well, the same thing, but what also gives Nate Diaz a lot of credibility is he and his brother Nick would spar with Andre Ward all the time. So they have that caliber of sparring at the high level. So don't underestimate Nate Diaz, and we'll see how serious he takes it. But he's so unorthodox that it makes it very, very hard for anybody to fight him. So, but that's a good fight. That's a fan favorite fight that people will tune in and watch it from all over the world.
It's a good point you make there in terms of sparring Andre Ward previously. And, we see a lot of these guys who come in to fight the influencers who will only start sparring because they've got this fight announced. Whereas the Diaz brothers, both of them, obviously we've mentioned the combat fighters, but they have focused on their boxing previously, as all other UFC and MMA fighters do. Just how important would that be for Diaz in this fight?
Oh, 100%, because it's boxing, it's not MMA. So everything is different now. Instead of focusing on 8 weapons, he could only focus on 2, but then you got to put yourself in the mental game as a boxer and not as an MMA guy making the transition. You got to think boxing one-on-one all the way. And I think he's capable of doing that. I don't know who's going to train him for this fight, whether it's, Richard Perez that's been with him since they were kids, or whether he's going to bring in a top professional coach.
Absolutely. It'd be good to see what he does on that front.